Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian on his own, doing an unboxing video. I cannot actually remember if I've done an unboxing of these guys before, because I do know we did have some of these figures which we used for the Northern Crusade game that we played, and I think we also used some of these figures for the Chinese game we played, the Taiping Rebellion. But these ones we're going to be using for playing with Japanese. So I don't remember if we have done an unboxing video. If we have, well, this is another one. So these are from Fireforge, and they are from the Deus Vult range, and they are Steppe Warriors. And I'm going to be using these as, I could actually use them as Mongolians, because the Mongolians did invade Japan twice. And you could also use them as Chinese as well, because we've done that before. And you can also use them as Koreans. In fact, the helmets and everything is the same as what they used in Korea at the time. So it gives we're doing Japanese basically, and that means we're mainly stuck in Japan. The Japanese didn't get out much. But the times they did get out, you can really expand your games with it, because they did have a plan to invade China, but it failed because they failed to invade they failed to invade Korea. The Koreans defeated them, and then of course the Mongols brought the war to Japan itself. So there's quite a lot of different things you can do with the period. And this is just to slightly augment the figures what we've got, and just get some extra little figures to do little skirmish games with. We might end up just only getting this one box, or we might end up doing whole armies of them and doing huge battles. We don't know. This is just the start of a new project. So that's the figures on the back, and they look pretty cool. I like them. I love the shields. I used a lot of the shields for the Roman-Jewish War, which we did for Hail Caesar a long time back, so you might recognise the shields from that. And we'll pop them open and have a look. Square bases, handy if you're using square bases, however we use these ones, so not much use to me. And let's have a look. We have, a bit different. I think actually the Deus Vult range has a different sprue for command as it has for infantry, for the rest of the box. So I think, unlike the other unboxing videos I've done recently, this one actually has a command stand. So let's have a look at these. Right, that is the tails. I think there's nine tails representing each clan or house of the Mongolian Empire. I think that's what they represent. It's a long time since I've done Mongolian stuff, but I did know a lot about Mongolians at one point, but I forgot most of it. But that's back in the old days when I used to do De Bellis Antiquita. Right, so we have pretty nice shields, which can equally usable for what we wanted to use them for. So I think we can mod, other than the, hang on, how many tails are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 9, right? So there are 9, right? So there are nine tails. So we have all of these here. I think actually there would have been 10, but I think one of the households was wiped out by Genghis. I think they murdered his father or something, off the top of my head. But that's just ancient history. Right, so we have, brilliant, we have separate bodies to legs. They're the bodies, they're the legs. I like this because it means you can pose them much better. You've got a huge amount of ways you can pose the figures if they're separate. And also you can swap the top out for a different body, so you can use, let's think, you could use a samurai body for the top, or like an Ashigaru body, or a samurai body, and have it as a monk. There we go, you can use them as monks. So the bodies, they're just wearing normal cloth. These bodies, these are wearing normal cloth. I think they actually did wear armour underneath the cloth. So they'd be wearing chainmail or leather armour. Yeah, I know leather armour is a misnomer. Leather is strips of leather with strips of metal in the leather. That's what leather armour is, usually. A piece of leather isn't great at stopping a sword, but it is actually not bad at stopping cuts. And if you put a little strip of metal in it, it's even better. Right, so the helmets or the hats are brilliant. They're very useful for what we're doing. They've got that lovely, weird, concave look to it. Just there. I remember having those from last time. And we have the tails there which go on the hats, which make your hat look even cooler. So you get this little tail here, this bit, and you stick it on the top of the hat, and you got a nice little fluttery thing on top of your hat. We did a lot of those when we did Chinese. As for the command, we have the standard there, and we have the 9 tails there. So you've got 2 different banners that you can use, and I don't think you've got a trumpet or anything like that. Oh, you do, just there, a little trumpet. That's cool. Or a horn, probably be a horn. That's the command, and then some of the normal infantry heads wearing this very well protected headgear, which not only protects you from the weather, but it protects slashing attacks because it's made out of very thick material. It's got I think is it horsehide on the inside and sort of wool on the outside, and the way the Mongolians used to fight was by slashing. So you don't necessarily try to stab your enemy with your sword, because your sword would fall out of your hand, you break your wrist. So you just slash at the enemy, and if enough people slash at the guys you ride past, you can kill them, or at least incapacitate them so they can't fight. Hence the design of the hat. Then we'll go on to the actual infantry. And here we have the infantry. Awesome shields, I mentioned that before. The standard shield for the Orient was the sort of round butler. Concave as well, it's bendy. That's quite handy because it means that blows rain off the shield much easier. European shields at the time were bigger and they covered much more of your body, and also they were flexible, so they bent. So when it got hit by something, the shield would bend and take the impact. It would vibrate and take the impact away from your arm. These shields, they're designed to deflect, so the impact will go off the shield. That's the basic design. And this is to stop arrows primarily. It's a padded shield. It's made out of very thick wicker, and they usually backed it with some sort of fabric, and often more than one layer of wicker. And the idea is that arrows won't go through it. There's not much use in combat, but when your troops are trying to get to the enemy with arrows flaming arrows falling down on you, these are great to stop it. The Japanese use the same sort of thing. They used to have sheets of wood, and they would march forwards in front of the army to stop arrows and occasionally bullets. So that's what they were used for. So this is very handy. In actual combat, it wouldn't be that cumbersome to carry around, but you are kind of limited to one-hand thrusting. The Romans seem to manage it, so I don't see why this shield would have been any much different from the Roman shield, although again, like with later European weapon shields, the Roman shield was also flexible and was designed to move the impact out, whereas this, I should guess, in close combat it would be quite easy to hack this thing apart with a sword. I know when you fire leaf arrows at a target, normally when you target shoot with a bow and arrow, you have the arrows have got a sort of dart head and they stick in. If you use leaf arrows, then you're going to destroy your target, because the leaf arrows, the wider arrowhead will cut through wicker quite easily, and so this won't last very long against close combat weapons. So a spear would probably go through it, a sword would go through it, and if you don't believe me, ask the Persians fighting the Spartans, because they had this shield and it was useless. The wicker shield is absolutely useless in combat with bronze weapons, and they're fighting people with steel. The Chinese had steel weapons, the Japanese of course had steel, and the Koreans had also mastered steel. So this is only to stop arrows, that's it. I've just spent about 5 minutes talking about shields, I do apologise. Right, so the bodies are the same as the other bodies, although slightly less ornate. They're all carrying a sword, which is handy. I get annoyed with is it Gripping Beast? They do a plastic kit of Vikings and Saxons, and you have to stick each sword scabbard on individually, and that can get really annoying. But these are already stuck on. That's great. That's a lot less effort for me, and it's a slightly... Is it a curved sword? No, it's more like the sword used... what's the name for it? A dowel. That sword's a dowel. Whereas that sword is not a dowel. That appears to be closer to halfway towards a scimitar. That's a dowel there. That one there, that's a dowel, and that's more closer to a scimitar. Difference is scimitars are used on horseback, because if you have a straight sword on horseback, it can get caught in armour and stuff and break or fall out of your hand or break your wrist. Dowels are much tougher, stronger blades, and they're much better for hacking away on foot, whereas when you're standing, having a curved sword is not really beneficial. You want something like a dowel, which is this, which is a short sword, well, relatively short, and you can hack and slash with it. The curved sword is really for being on horseback, like this here. That's for on horseback more than anything else, because then you can slash at your enemy. You can also go in with a point, but the chances are you're going to lose your sword. So you might hurt the guy, but yeah. I'm only going through books and stuff that I've read about the Mongols and how they fought and how weapons work, and there's quite a few good reenactment channels on YouTube, and they actually practice with these weapons and they show how they actually work. Although one problem they have, they can't actually reenact actual situations, but they do a really good job of trying. Yeah, so the shield I've already mentioned there. Nice concave shield, usually made out of brass. Then we have this here, the bendy sword. You've got no hand swords with dowels in them, unfortunately, but you can always swap and change a hand. And then we just have the normal helmets. There's 2 armoured helmets there, and the rest are just the normal cap. So when we did Chinese, this is pretty much standard, the kind of gear that the Chinese wore anyway. Although the Chinese tended to have a cure or a little tiny bit of fabric coming off the top, whereas these are slightly too big, these bits of fabric here, because these are Mongols, they're not Chinese. But you know, the people in the Orient tended to use the same sort of gear. I mean, almost all knights in Europe look the same because they all lived in Europe, and so in the Orient, yeah, it's bigger than Europe, but they all used roughly the same sort of dress code and technology. Although the Mongols used silk, they used to wear silk shirts, because when silk wraps around an arrowhead, so if an arrow hits you and gets through your armour, you can pull the arrow out without doing horrific damage to your body. Silk's good, it's useful. Yeah, so that's the figures. These appear to have a little bit more detail to them than the officers. Let's have a look. No, they're actually the same, it's just light. Yeah, that's not bad. Oh, he's got the hood down. Right, so you've got the hood down there, so that would be for the wearing the officer's hat, these. And the one with the hood up, see, he's got no hood on the back, whereas he's got a hood hanging off there, if you can see it in profile. There you can see the hood hanging off the back there. That is for those ones. The ones without the hood is for this, because the hood is actually pulled over and then the cap secures the hood in place. So yeah, that's nice figures. I'm looking forward to painting these up, and I'm going to be doing them as Koreans, or use them as Koreans. You could use it for anything really. Yeah, so that's it. That's the end of the video. I did waffle on slightly too much there, I do apologise. So if you like the video, leave a like, subscribe if you feel like subscribing, and leave any comments. I do like all your reading all your comments occasionally when I can get the thing to work. And so that's the unboxing video for the Fireforge Steppe Warriors. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Imperator Vespasian. Have a good day and goodbye.